Good morning, welcome. St. Peter's, Revelation 18, it's the fall of Babylon. Now remember, Babylon is simply the same picture from yesterday, the woman on the beast. It's the city that is falling. And it says that this city will fall, essentially. Woe, woe to great city, because you had all the ships of the sea, verse 19. You became rich through her wealth, and in 1 hour you have been brought to ruin. With such violence, verse 21, the great city of Babylon will be thrown down, never to be found again. The music of harpists, musicians, flute players and trumpeters will never be heard in you again. No workman will be there. Your merchants were the world's great men. By your magic, all the nations were led astray. Now, there are two responses here to this destruction of the city. And as we look at this morning, where are you? What's your response to this city? Because there's the merchants and the kings of the nation and all those who get rich from her, and they say, listen to this. Verse 19, every sea captain and all who travel by ship, when they see the smoke of her burning, they will exclaim, was there ever such a great city like this? And they will throw dust on their heads with weeping and mourning and cry out, woe, woe, O great city. And there's this picture of mourning over death. But in chapter 19, we have this other weird picture of, after this, I heard in chapter 19, verses 1 to 10, hallelujah! Salvation and glory belong to our God. He has condemned the great prostitute. And they said, hallelujah! The smoke goes up forever and ever. Now, here's a picture of two responses. Those who have become rich and wealthy and successful off the city, they mourn. And then there are those who are in heaven who say salvation belongs to our God and the smoke goes up from her forever. It sounds like an awful picture, but remember, this is God's final and full judgment and separation of good from evil. So we have the earthly city, we have the heavenly city. And we have those in the heavenly city rejoicing over the destruction of the earthly city. Rejoicing, why? Because it says God is just in his judgments and true. God will avenge all injustice and all evil, and he will separate and discern finally and fully between all evil and all good in the just and fair and right way. So it's not a capricious judgment or a judgment where it's hard for us to understand, but here God is finally and fully finishing all judgment. What is the response? Well, similar to yesterday, he says in verse 4, come out of her, my people, so you won't share in her sins and you won't receive any plagues. The call is to be people who persevere in living for God's heavenly city, and even to the point of death. In verse 24 of chapter 18 it says, in her, this is the city, was found the blood of prophets and of the saints and all who have been killed on the earth. To live for God, to love God and to love others will bring you necessarily into conflict with those who love the world and who worship the beast. And God puts it in this contrasting, stark way because he's showing the reality, the heavenly reality of those who worship sex, money, power and the things of the world. And he's showing us so we can see that the reality is to live for God, love others, and to sacrifice and live for him in service. This is what 17 and 18 is showing us, and it's very arresting and terrifying images. But it's designed, see, the reality and the truth is good to be given. It's a good dose of medicine that's needed if it's the truth. And Jesus is showing us where both cities head, the heavenly Jerusalem and God's city versus the city of the world. That's for chapter 17 and 18. Tomorrow we hit up 19 and 20. And we keep looking at God's separation of good and evil. And we'll see not only is the city destroyed, but the final and fullness of evil is taken away in chapters 19 and 20. See you tomorrow.